from the soundstage of the digital media classroom here at Wellington High School. Welcome once again to another episode of Dialogue with the Dukes. We hope that you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and you're all ready to go back to work here as of last Monday here at Wellington High School. This morning our helpers are Caden Sharapita and Eric Benko. The show, as always, is brought to you by the Patricia Lindley Center for the Performing Arts and by the Wellington Music Store. This morning we're going to be interviewing two young men who participate in a sport that's not necessarily all that well known here at Wellington High School, except that when there is in past years, the lone wrestling match here at Wellington High School, it's very, very well attended. We have Trayton Bowman, welcome, a junior here at Wellington High School, and Jeremiah McKee, a sophomore. Welcome to both of you. Well, obviously wrestling is the subject this morning. And as I say, even I don't necessarily know all that much about wrestling itself. However, I have to do the public address announcing, so I have to learn right along with everybody else that's up in the stands. Wrestling, as I said, is not necessarily that well known. And so therefore, my first question to you, Trayton, and actually to both of you, how, why, when did you decide to become a wrestler?
I was 14, I was a freshman. I'd heard about it, but never knew anything about it, so I just decided to try out, and I've liked it ever since.
Do you find that it keeps you in really good shape? Obviously, if not only muscular-wise, but cardiovascular too. Yeah. Jeremiah, same thing. Why, when, how? When did you start wrestling?
I believe I started in 5th grade. I didn't really know it was a sport, didn't know what it was, so I wanted to try it. Ended up liking it. All my friends were doing it at that time, so it was pretty cool. I stuck with it.
And I noticed that, especially when the basketball game starts so early, I noticed that there's an awful lot of, for lack of a better term, small kids that are up there learning how to wrestle. And so it must start, in not necessarily in your case, Trayton, but for you, Jeremiah, it started very early in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Trayton, as you said, you started out at 14 years old. What do you actually get out of wrestling?
I mean, you get to stay in shape, and it's like character building, so you get a lot of dedication.
And joy? Is there a joy in wrestling?
When you win, it's just like your hard work pays off, yeah.
If you don't win, Jeremiah, what does it do as far as looking forward to the next match or something like that? Does it motivate you?
Yeah, it definitely motivates you to want to try harder and fix the mistakes you made. And it's disappointing when you lose, so you gotta go back at it next time.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Jeremiah said, Trayton, obviously Coach goes over things with you. What has Coach Waters taught you? What does he help you with? Especially since you came into the game, I would say, a little later than most of the kids do.
Well, my first year, he was the assistant coach, and I had worked with Emily a lot, so it was just me, Coach Waters, and Emily.
Mm-hmm.
So he pretty much taught me everything I know about wrestling so far. And then, worked with Sedley too, and then he became the head coach next year. So Waters just been there from the start with me.
Talk about that. Talk about the replacement for Coach Waters.
I feel like, you mean for Sedley?
His name and yeah.
I feel like he was a good replacement. He really fit in. It was like Sedley, but a younger version. Really picked up where we left off. So.
Yeah, and the fact that he's more for lack of a better term, more your age. Exactly. One of the things that I notice when I come to your practices is that many of you wear a T-shirt, and on the back it says "Train like a madman." Talk about that, Jeremiah.
It's just training, working as hard as we can until he mentally breaks us. Because sometimes we'll be up there and kids will just be yelling at each other because they're so mad. He's pushing us all real hard up there. Really is what it means.
For either one of you, and I brought up the cardiovascular aspect of it, Trayton. For the people that don't understand or know that much about wrestling, a wrestling match takes place. What are the periods and how long are the periods? How many, should I say, how many periods and how long are they?
There's 3 2-minute periods, so it's a total of 6 minutes. You start off neutral at the beginning and then top and bottom with the ref flips to the side. It's like a little coin.
Okay, which brings up, what is neutral position? What is up or down in a referee's position?
Well, neutral's when the two guys line up on the line and they're both standing up. And then top is when the other guy gets on, what is called his referee's position. So he gets on his hands and knees and the other guy covers him on top. And then bottom is obviously when you're on your hands and knees and the other guy gets on your back.
Is there an advantage to either the referee's position or the neutral position?
I would say the referee's position, because when you escape, you get 1 point, and that's how you win matches by the points, really.
Sure.
So that 1 point helps out a lot, and it's easy to get out. So.
Now, so you like the bottom
Yeah.
versus the top now, is there a choice at the beginning of the match whether you are on the top or the bottom?
No, you have to start on your feet in the first period. But
Right.
then the second and third, one guy gets to choose, and the next period, the other guy gets to choose.
Now, in the neutral position, now let's say that you get a takedown, Trayton. Now, let's say you go off the mat. Now, will you be on the top or will you be on the bottom? You'll be on the top, wouldn't you be?
If I get to take down, then I'm on
Right,
top.
exactly, yeah. Well, we'd like to thank the gentleman for giving us an indication of what wrestling is like, and for the people who don't understand wrestling and the periods and how long they are and things like that, we appreciate that. And when we come back after this commercial message, we'll talk a little bit about the team this year. This is Dialogue with...
Are you tired of dusty equipment with broken parts, or equipment that's going to fall apart in the middle of a jam session? I've got the answer for you. You need to come down to Wellington Music. We've got guitars, drums, keyboard, amps, cords, and picks and strings. Anything that you need, we have down here at Wellington Music. Stop by today, Wellington Music. Call us at 440-647-3233. Once again, 440-647-3233.
We are back. We hope for all of your music needs, you go to the Wellington Music Store located at 117 West Herrick in downtown Wellington. During the first portion of this episode, we talked a little bit about the intricacies of wrestling. We talked about what happens during a match and so on, and how these gentlemen got involved in wrestling. And now we want to talk a little bit about the team. So, Trayton, what are your thoughts on the team this year? How's it been going?
I feel like we're doing better this year. Our returning seniors and returning letter winners they're doing the same, if not better. And the new guys are catching along real good.
Mm-hmm. Well, last year we interviewed Gabe Gayhart. How's he been doing this year?
He's doing pretty good. He's only lost a couple matches.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, he not only was he a great wrestler, but this year he also, for the first time, I believe, ended up on the football team and played football for, I believe, the first time. So congratulations to Gabe. Well, Jeremiah, we are in a new conference this year. We're not in the PAC anymore. How is it different wrestling in the new conference, Lorain County League, versus in the Patriot Athletic Conference?
I don't think it's much different. We're still facing a lot of the same teams. You know, I believe we only got rid of Buckeye. I believe so, and they were a real big competitor. So I think it was kind of good to have them in our conference because they really helped us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not real different.
Is that right? Trayton, now, normally, as I said, and just as a background, give us first of all background about the fact it's not necessarily one team against another like playing in a football game or a basketball game. We often play more, but this year we've got 3 home matches. We've got 2 matches, and then we have the conference championships. Explain the difference between one team versus another, where we usually we're playing against more teams in a match.
I don't understand.
Well, it's like Thursday night. Next Thursday night is our first home match, but we're not going to be playing against just one team. Like we would play basketball against, say, Firelands, against Wellington. Now we're going to be playing against several teams. So how is that different, and how does the match take place?
So each match you wrestle like your weight class, and if it's a dual meet, there'll be 4 schools there. We only wrestle 2, and it's mainly like an individual sport, but there's also team aspects, like you get team points. So depending on if you pin or if you tag, or it's just different, really. You'll wrestle 2 kids, that way you get your matches in for the night, but that way you're not like overworked or anything.
That's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. Being overworked. Okay, you have a really tough match the first time. What does that take out of you for the second match, if anything, or are you prepared for that?
It's kind of like a wake-up call, really. Like you'll have a first match, you can do bad or you can do really good, and then it just gets you ready for the next match.
Okay, I understand. Well, Jeremiah, how do the matches actually help you And what's different about going against one guy and then you have to go against another guy? Is there a help in that first match? Kind of like what he said, maybe he did real well or maybe he didn't do so well, but it psychs you up. How is that different, having to do 2 matches and having to go all out on both matches?
Well, at our tournaments before our dual meets where we just face 2 kids, we usually have like these huge brackets, maybe like 30 kids or in some, and they we'll have like 8 matches, so you got to go all out for all 8 of them. And the big thing is just getting physical injuries. So if you get hurt your first match, it's gonna suck going into that second one.
Yeah.
But after the first match, coaches they'll always tell you like, oh, you did this wrong, but you did really good on this, and you could really watch out for that in the next match. You know, protect your weaknesses so you know what to do. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you definitely want to protect the weaknesses.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this year, I'm sure both of you have set goals. So I'll ask the same question to both of you. Goals this year, Trayton.
Win at the home meets so everyone sees it.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it. How do you, Jeremiah?
I want to win all my matches I can, but all these tournaments we're doing now, I don't really care. I just want to go to state. That's my own goal.
Well, that's certainly a good goal.
And just work hard as I can in practice all the time.
Again, training like a madman, right? Exactly right. Well, my final questions to both of you. First to Trayton. Our third home match this year is actually going to be the conference championships at Wellington High School. What's the outlook? Because now we're just going against our own conference versus going against other teams from other conferences. So what does the outlook look like for us, Wellington High School, against all the other schools in Lorain County League?
I feel like it depends on how our dual meets do first, because if we end up, beating everybody in the dual meets, then I feel like we'll have a better chance at PAC itself. We just need to see the competition first, really.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, one of the things that I do want to do, since we have just 2 of the wrestlers here, we can't have the entire team here. So I'm going to ask Jeremiah, and he's got a list in front of him. So hopefully Mr. Bowman, who gave me this list, hasn't left anybody out. We did scratch one there. But I'd like you to give a shout out to all the wrestlers on the team, if you could, Jeremiah.
Yes, sir. All right, so this year our captains, we have Gabe Gayhart. He's a senior. Ethan Kelly's also a senior. We have Nick Martinelli, who's a senior captain too. And then we have Trayton Bowman, Caden Conrad, Derek Kondulsic, Jason Keenan, Bryce Shaw, Bert Parsons, Quentin McKenna, Dominic McKenna, Wade Bowman, and Kevin Eggsy.
Yeah, Kevin Z, I believe it is, yeah. Well, I know that
Jason Keenan's also a senior captain too.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you got that in there. Needless to say, I see a lot of football players on there. Bert Parsons, not the least of which. So, what does, and either one of you can answer it. What does the football team and working out in the fall, being on the football team, how does that prepare, if any way, going into wrestling, if any way? Either one of you.
I mean, it just gets you in shape, really. It's just helping you out, because wrestling is the most physical, exerting sport there is out there.
I kind of think so too. Just watching the matches. You're not a football player, so during the off season, how do you prepare for wrestling during the winter semester?
I usually just do what I normally do the whole off season until wrestling starts up. I kind of watch my weight, diet a little bit, just get used to it, so that way when the season comes, I'll be ready for it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Is there a specific diet that you work on?
Nothing specific. I usually stick to meat, chicken though, and I always look for the most healthy option at my house.
Mm-hmm.
But to stay in shape, I usually Joe Bachmore owns Inner Circle, and since we're part of the wrestling team, he lets us come down there. So I'd go down there throughout the summer, and I'd do my own workouts, run down the road, whatnot. I got an elliptical I use too.
Yeah, good. Well, once again, we'd like to thank Trayton Bowman very much and Jeremiah McKee very much for coming in, explaining a little bit about wrestling, what is involved in it, and how they specifically are involved and how the team is doing this year. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Dialogue with the Dukes.